Your favorite artists. New music discovery. Candid conversations, unfiltered. Loudmouth, little lady, lots of music history. Broadcasting live from New Jersey, it's the Carr Stereo Podcast with Terrie Carr.
I am so excited on the Carr Stereo Podcast to have not only Rush geeks along with me for the ride today, which is always so much fun, but these guys are old friends of mine, which makes it all that more special. I would never bring in Rush people to talk about Rush that I actually didn't know, because I think there's a very special community of all of us. And I have been speaking with Rush fans for the greater parts of my career in broadcasting. So I am welcoming to the Carr Stereo Podcast the founders and hosts of the Something for Nothing, I call it a Rush Fancast podcast, my good friends, Steve and Gerry. It's so great to see you guys. It's been too long, too, since we've hung out and we've seen each other.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us, Terrie. We appreciate it.
Gerry, how have you been? You're always the silent co-conspirator.
Looking for Steve to set me up, and I just drop a nugget here and there.
I love that. All right. So I want to get everybody who's listening to Carr Stereo familiar with what you guys do. And here's why I love what you guys do. And I told you this off microphone. I said, what I love is you guys are such diehard Rush fans. You've had so many amazing guests on the cast. But what I love the most is you come from a place of being a fan, but you don't sort of negate all of the new fans. You have a lot of young fans, people in their teens and 20s and 30s. So Steve, talk to me about how you guys decided to do a podcast. When did you decide to do it? And what is the essence really of the Something for Nothing podcast?
Well, Gerry and I went out to Red Rocks back in June of 2019. We went out to see Death Cab for Cutie at Red Rocks. And we decided to drive to Utah to go to Arches National Park. And while we were driving, we were talking about Rush like we always do. And we had talked about doing a podcast for years. We always wanted to do one. And it was kind of the Seinfeld moment. We were talking about Rush and we just said, this is it. This is the podcast. Gerry, what were we talking about?
We were talking about kid gloves, the song Kid Gloves. Talking about what kid gloves were. I don't think Steve
Wow.
was like, I was just like, it's over explaining the song and what the song meant and how the kid gloves, is represented in the song. And then it was just like, we should do this. And Steve's like, talk about gloves? What are you talking about? And I was like, no, over explain Rush songs.
And it's evolved though so much beyond that. Just talking about Rush songs and talking about your love for Rush. All right, Gerry, I'm going to go to you now for your first Rush moment. Were you a kid? Were you a teen? What was the moment that you had that sort of, the skies exploded and you discovered the band that you came to be such a massive fan of?
Well, it was a show at the Meadowlands. I think it was March 31st, Steve?
March 31st, 1986.
1986. Steve had tickets with a couple of friends when we were in high school, and they needed someone who had a driver's license, and that was me.
That seemed to always be the thing for me too. Coming up, going to my first Rush show in junior high, moving pictures tour, it was all about who was going to drive you.
Right.
For me, it was usually a friend's brother. There was always a friend's brother that was a little older with a driver's license.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was the only show that I've ever seen where I went in knowing absolutely nothing about the band and left needing to know everything about the band. Never in my life have I had such an experience seeing a show.
So what was the song that drew you in the most?
Just the entire thing.
The whole thing.
They played. I'd have to look at the set list. I have no. It was from the first second until the lights went on. I just enthralled by the entire experience. I couldn't believe that this band had existed, and I hadn't known about them before. And then from there on, it got a little intense for a few years.
Steve, when was your almost famous moment? Because I call those the almost famous moments where you have that, the needle drops, the world changes, the candles going, just like in the movie. What was your moment? Were you and me working together when you had your moment, or had you had your moment before
No,
that?
no, my moment was probably 1983. I joined the Columbia House Record Club. I'm sure you're familiar with this. And I got 13 records for a penny. So 3 of the albums I got were Moving Pictures, Signals, and The Great White North, Bob and Doug McKenzie. And I'd never heard Rush before, and I was smitten from that day on. But I hadn't heard any other Rush until that same day Jerry and I went to the show. And seeing them live, it was just a whole other experience.
Yeah.
I mean, and ever since, Jerry and I have both been rabid Rush fans, and it's all we talk about.
Let's talk about what's happening now. Wowza. So was this on your bingo card, Jerry,
No,
for Rush 50? I mean, doesn't it seem like we were just at R40? Like, I can't believe how fast 10 years went by. It was just incredible. Did you think, because I'll give you my feeling on it, did you think that there was going to be a tour? And were you surprised by the news?
Yeah, I didn't think there would ever be a tour again. I believed them when they said that they weren't ever going to tour. And when Steve sent me, he texted me, he's like, Rush is going on tour. I thought for sure it was a joke, that maybe he, somebody posted it on Reddit as a joke. I'm glad they're doing it, but I didn't believe it when it first happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Steve, how about you? And then I'll give you my take.
I think it's fantastic. I mean, Geddy and Alex, this is what they do for a living. This is what they want to do. They want to play music. They want to play together. And why not do it as Rush? And it was an inspired choice, picking Annika as the drummer. She's amazing.
Amazing. Amazing. My feeling was this. In the beginning, I was Gerry, and I'm like, never going to happen. It's like Zeppelin. Bonham's gone. They're never coming back. Then I did an interview with Alex Lifeson, and there was something in the way that he mentioned it's the 50th anniversary. And there just seemed to be something in his voice, something in his eyes, some kind of a passion where I thought, this man, and he talked about getting healthy. I'm feeling great. I had some surgery and I'm taking care of myself and I've lost some weight. And I thought to myself, there's something in this man's heart and in his soul where he's going to play these songs again.
I'm involved with music in a big way. I'm playing guitar at least as much as I've ever played in my life. I just feel in a really, really good place.
Now, I thought she was an inspired choice. I thought it was a great choice. It wasn't on my card, though, that they were going to go with somebody who is relatively unknown. Now, she's known to them. I think Geddy saw her, I believe, with Jeff Beck, because I've seen him make some commentary on the fact that, gosh, and it was before she joined the band. And he said, like, oh, I saw this woman, Annika, and she's amazing. And I saw her play with Jeff Beck, and wow, is she fantastic. So having her be the choice, I was like, whoa, this is crazy. But there was something in the conversation I had with him where I just felt like in his heart and soul, if there was any way to put this together again, they were going to be able to do it. And that was, when I heard it, I was surprised, but yet not surprised, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think choosing someone who's relatively unknown was a much better choice than choosing like Mike Portnoy or somebody like
Yeah, the usual prog guys. I think everybody thought that the big Rush fans, the big prog drummers, they were all going to get their shot. And I felt bad for these guys because everybody's like, wah, 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 my one shot, to go out on a Rush tour. But a lot of people hit me up and said, oh, you must be so happy because they're so female supportive and stuff. Here's what I love, and here's what they are. they're not necessarily female supportive. I think when Envy of None came out, a lot of people hit me up. Oh, they are supportive of talent, and they don't knock you out of the ballpark because A, you're younger than them, or B, you're a different gender. Done, period, over. Where a lot of bands would be like, maybe they're kids, or she's a chick, so I don't know how that's going to work out. They're just looking for talents, and they're looking for the right fit. So when I say an inspired choice, that's why I'm inspired. Am I over the moon that there's going to be a woman behind the drum kit for Rush? I'm speechless. I have nothing left to say. And when I was doing that interview with Alex Lifeson, which I'll tell you guys, and I think you guys will appreciate this a little bit, I was at dinner the night before in New York City. I'm in Jersey, not that far away. So I get a text. Hey, can you Zoom with Alex Lifeson tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.? We have an opening. The Envy of None record was coming out that day, by the way. So I hadn't heard the whole thing. I've heard dribs and drabs, but I hadn't heard the whole thing. And I'm like, of course. I was trying to get out of the restaurant to get home because I was like, I am not going to take this one chance and do a shitty interview. I'm like, I want the whole record. Like, I was so stoked to do this. And the things that he told me in that interview about how Maya was his muse and his inspiration knocked me over. You guys have spoken to her and have had her on the cast. Talk to me a little bit about her and why you think she connected with him.
She is just one of the most talented people I think I've ever spoken to. Jared, don't you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, she's a multi-instrumentalist. Her voice is fantastic. This is going to sound crazy, Terry, but I feel like 50 years from now, Alex's Wikipedia entry might be that he was in a band with Maya Wynn. That's how talented she is.
He feels that way too.
Yeah.
Right.
He loves her. He is her biggest supporter. And he said it was her that inspired him to make all of this great music and open his mind. And he said, it wasn't about for me solos and constant riffing. I was in a different place. And I feel like she's like kind of above the music. Like she has a very interesting perspective in how she delivers that. Gerry, talk to me about your feelings with her.
I think that she, she's such a great songwriter. I think she brought out a lot of Alex's songwriting that, not that he didn't do it in Rush, but that it's just so different for him, the different kind of style that he was playing with the band. And her lyrics are so interesting as well. And he could really, really dig in and match, his guitar choices to the music, especially on the second album when they were really starting things from the ground up. Like the first album, some of the songs were already done when Alex came into the project, but the second album, he was there from the beginning, and you can definitely feel his influence on those songs, where he's taking inspiration from the rhythm of her lyrics and just the meaning of the lyrics, and really, adding some incredible depth to that album.
Yeah, when he said to me, she's my muse. She's the whole inspiration behind this. I saw her and I thought, that's the person, that's the fit. And her parents were Rush fans. She maybe not so much. And I think that's the coolest part because she comes from a whole different place, a whole different perspective. I mean, I think if the three of us were multi-instrumentalists and songwriters, we couldn't do it because we would be too much in the Alex-ness of it all. And she could separate herself from that, right? Do you feel that way, Steve?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. She didn't know Alex very well, but she said that she connected with him immediately. It's almost like a father-daughter relationship. She's so inspired by him and he by her. It's a symbiotic relationship. They just feed off each other.
And she's such a nice person too. When we were talking to her, she was just, she's like, yeah, sure, let's just do it. We talked about both albums, every song on both albums over the course of 4 episodes. Plus we talked to her when they announced that she was going to be the singer of the band. that they were forming the band. So we talked to her 5 times, and every time she's just been the nicest person.
Yeah, I've heard her on your cast. And yeah, she is. She's so nice. She's so talented. And she's so incredibly inspiring. Well, I think that your podcast has had so many great guests. So, Steve, I'm going to start with you. Give me your 3 favorite guests that have been on the Something for Nothing podcast.
Well, number one, I'm going to go with a recent guest, Nick Raskulenitz.
I loved him. He was my favorite guest on your podcast, too.
He produced Snakes and Arrows and Clockwork Angels. He had amazing stories about working with the band, about meeting the band. Just incredible, and such a smart guy. Number 2, I would go with Danny Peart. We got to speak to Neil's brother probably less than a year before he passed away, sadly, of brain cancer, just like his brother. And after we were done with the interview, which was fantastic, he told Gerry and I that we did a great job on the interview. And it was almost like speaking to Neil himself. It was almost like getting validation from Neil that we were doing the right thing when Danny said that, which meant so much to me. And the third one I would say, and Gerry, you probably agree with this one, we spoke to Daniel Catullo, who was the director and producer of Rush in Rio. And he told us crazy, crazy stories about producing that live video that you just have to listen to believe.
Yeah.
I mean, he was fantastic. And I could go on, but I got to leave some for Gerry.
Yeah, yeah. No, you guys have had amazing guests, and I definitely, God, I should have had you do 5 because I'm thinking, well, those are my 3, and then Jared's going to hit me up, and I know that it's going to be similar for me. I like Nick too because I speak to so many bands. I think I was recently speaking to Amy Lee of Evanescence. So many bands put so much of their trust in him. He really has these artists that trust him, and he's done so many records, Evanescence and Skid Row, and like, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And he's such a crafter of sound. I mean, you have to be when you're crafting Rush records, of course. All right, Gerry, give me your 3.
Well, most 2 of them are the same, but I'll pick other ones because I can just go like down the list. Of course, Maya, as we mentioned. I love talking to her because I've always wanted to talk to a lyricist about their lyrics. I always wanted to ask, did you really mean, like, I'm reading this thing into this song. Did you mean that? And it turns out that she did. So I loved hearing that for the first time. That, what I'm thinking about this song is actually what the song is about. So and she's such a great person, as we said. I think Ben Mink, too.
Yes.
One. He produced Geddy's solo album and played electric violin on Losing It from Signals. And he's a big producer. He produced Katie Lang in the 90s. He was just another great guy. The thing that I'm so grateful for is that there's no reason why anybody should talk to us. Right, Steve? We feel the same.
Absolutely.
We're just the Rush podcast. And we just ask people and they're like, yeah, sure. And then they just talk to us. I just find that amazing. And probably the third one is Jonathan Dinklage. He's violinist on Broadway, but also played in the Clockwork Angels string quartet. And he had some great stories as well, but he is a huge fan. So it was nice to talk to him about balancing his rabid fandom with becoming friends with the band and like playing with them on stage every night.
He's a Jersey guy too, I think.
Yes, he is.
Which is like so incredibly, incredibly super cool. You brought up a great point. You guys always have such incredibly insightful, interesting, amazing guests. I mean, for the Rush fans, if you are a Rush fan and you have not subscribed to their podcast, you have to, because it's so insightful. And I mean, the comments are just great from your fans. Everybody learns something, even if you're the biggest Rush geek like I am. So how do you guys go about getting the guests? Gerry, you just kind of mentioned, like, Yeah, we just kind of like ask people, will you do our podcast? And then people come on the podcast. Is it as simple as that? What do you have to do to get these phenomenal guests to keep the cast going after all these years? You
It
just
really,
ask.
yeah, sometimes it takes a little while. Nick was a busy guy, so it took Steve a while to, get a
Eat
time,
him down.
wear him down a little bit. But I'm just surprised at the people who return my emails. Like when we had Hugh Simon, obviously he's, you know, created their album covers for decades. He joined Instagram, and the day he joined Instagram, I sent him a DM and said, "Hey, blah blah blah, we're a Rush podcast. You want to come on the show?" And he's like, "Yeah, give me a call tomorrow." And he gave me his cell phone number, and I talked to him for an hour the next day.
That was a great one too, by the way.
I,
Great
and
episode.
we talked. Like I emailed Ben Mink on his website. He got back to me. I don't know. It's something about Rush that everybody wants to talk about Rush. These people love Rush, and they're friends of the band, and they still want to talk to total strangers about Rush.
You know who I credit? Howard Ungerleider. We asked him to be on the podcast. He's Rush's lighting director, was for years. And he was the first, I guess, big Rush guest that we had who said yes. And we've had a chance to meet him since, and what a great guy. But just the fact that Howard said yes, I think kind of sprung everything else, because
Opens the doors. Yeah. No.
right, somebody like Ben Mink will say, "Oh, well, they talked to Howard. Well, if they talked to Howard, I guess they must be legit." And that opened all the doors.
Yeah, I think it's the list of people that we can say that we've talked to when I email somebody. Like, we're this Rush Fancast. We've interviewed all of these people, and then they're like, "Oh, I know that person. I don't know if they can give them a call if they want and see if we're legit interviewers or not." But I don't know what's happening, but I'm grateful that they do return my emails.
Gerry, you and I think, have something in common. We're both mega Signals fans.
Mm.
I think one of the great underdog records in the Rush repertoire. What is it about that record that you love so much? For me, I find it to be at times almost a darker record. I think that's what I love about it so much. What about you?
Well, I love the fact that it's Rush changing gears and just hitting a home run with it. I love the fact that Alex, had to find his own place on this album and did so brilliantly. And the solos on that album and just what he's playing, the chords he's playing throughout the entire album. Some songs, don't really focus on the guitar. It's mostly keyboards. But the space that he finds on that album is mind blowing. I don't know how he does it. I mean, he's a genius, obviously, right? That's how he does it. And I think it marks a fulcrum from when Rush was, more prog to becoming, shorter, more concise songwriters while still keeping all of their progginess and all their weirdness. And Neil's lyrics become a little more personal on some of the songs. It's just an amazing jumping off point for the rest of their career.
Yeah, lyrically for me, that record was definitely a different record. There was something that opened up for me on that record, and I love everything, just everything about it. We were showing before, but I have my dog has her Signals leash and her Signals collar, and I know you got one for Steve, so you one up me on that. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Almost my Rush Christmas ornaments are coming out.
Nice.
I'm like, we're so rushed out in this house. It's not even funny. For those of you watching the YouTube version, let's cut away to where my dog Rosie eats on her 2112 dog dinner mat every night. Very functional and certainly inspires mama. There's just something about having everything around you. You see, you like my drum head back there? Isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I've got my framed Neil photos over there. We were always honoring the professor in the house, the ghost of the professor. I also wanted to talk to you guys about Rush Day. You guys are like wild. So what do? You just pack all your shit up and you just like head on the road to do this live broadcast? How did you finagle all this?
Well, we were lucky enough to speak to Steve Himmel, who is the co-owner of Henderson Brewing up in Toronto. And as you know, they brew Rush beer along with Getty and Alex. They collaborated with them to create this Rush beer. And now every year they have Rush Day. And he was nice enough to invite us. Is it the third year in a row we've gone, Jer?
We've been to every Rush Day, but we only recorded at 2 of them.
Right. The last 2 years we broadcast from, what is it, the Crow's Nest
Call it the Crow's.
up at the top of Henderson Brewing.
You have the signage there. You have like the whole deal is going on there.
A banner. Can you believe it? I made a banner.
I love it. I love it. I'm like, look at these guys. This is incredible. What has that been like? That has got to be so much fun. And I see the comments from the fans who are so into the broadcast.
It's been incredible. I'd like to think it's because of the relationship that Steve and I have, but it's really just about Rush. People want to talk about Rush, and the people in their lives are tired of hearing about it, is basically what it boils down to. You know, they're serious Rush fans who need an outlet, and we're kind of their outlet. You know, we're their Rush friends if their Rush friends aren't around to talk to.
And the weird thing is we're kind of in the Rush community now. And when listeners come up to us at Henderson Brewing, it's like we're celebrities, and we're far from celebrities, but these people treat us like we are. And it's hilarious, actually.
I think it's great to connect with people. I mean, that's the thing I've learned from the podcast, is that it's all about connection. People are just looking for a connection between their favorite things and other people. They want to know that what they love is loved by other people. And I think a lot of people find that, you know, through the podcast to Rush.
100%. So let's talk about these shows coming up. Yowza. Did you think that the tickets would be as difficult to get as I knew it was going to be crazy. And at first there was just a sprinkling. We just got a sprinkling, a handful of shows. I'm trying to think the tour starts. When does the tour start? I think it's the first date is June 8th, California. And then there was just a sprinkling. And now the tour is going like through the end of November right now. We've got Madison Square Garden dates. They keep adding. Talk to me about when the day that it got announced, because even though I kind of thought it might be coming, and a friend of mine kind of gave me a little bit of a tip, and I'm like, no, I'll believe it when I see it. And he's like, well, you might see it. You might see it. Because I think Q Prime is managing the tour. Q Prime Management, who manages Metallica, they're managing the Rush tour. I did not realize that the tickets, there would be such a crazy, incredible frenzy. Talk to me about when tickets went on sale for you guys. Were you in the queue? I was in the queue. I was trying. What do you think this means for the fans? How do you think the fans are responding to this? A lot of people are pissed. They're like, ticket prices are too expensive. I can't get in. I'm a real fan. What's happening here? I'll start with Gerry. Give me your sensibility on that.
People are frustrated, basically. I have so many emails from people after we did our episode about our troubles getting tickets. It was because they only announced 12 shows in 7 cities, I think it was. So everybody was clamoring for those. Now that they've expanded the tour, I think to 58 dates. So hopefully there'll, be some good seats still available. But, I see the whole tour selling out. I see it selling out every night. The response has been incredible. And we were in the queue and in the waiting room, number 8,000. So we didn't really get as many tickets as we want, but we are going to 3 shows, which I'm grateful for.
Are they all 3 local area shows? Are you guys flying around, or what's happening?
They're local. MSG in Philly and Mohegan Sun.
Oh, nice. So fantastic. You've got three different venues,
Yep.
but they're all kind of centrally located to where you guys are. Did you ever think that this day would come? Did you think that there would be another, you know, R40? For me, I thought this is it, guys. We're done. We're over. See ya. Bye. I went to 3 shows on that tour. Um, with all my guy friends. No, no female, no females in the bunch. And this tour I'm planning on also. I'm only going to 1 right now. Um, but I thought that that was it for sure. Um, I don't know what to expect. I don't know how I'm going to feel. I know there's going to be this feeling of, yes, we get to do it again. I'm so excited. I'm so happy. Do you think it's going to feel different without Neil? What is it going to feel like for you guys? What is it going to feel like, Steve, for you?
I think it's going to feel very emotional. I think that they're going to do a great tribute to Neil Peart. And I don't think they would have done this tour if they didn't, number one, get the okay from Neil's family. And number two, they didn't feel like they could really do a great tribute to Neil. So I think it's going to be a fantastic tribute to him. I think it's going to be emotional. And I think the Rush fans are going to be happy with what they see. I mean, I know a lot of Rush fans are upset. They're saying, well, if it's not Neil, it's not Rush. But like I said before, this is what Alex and Geddy do for a living. This is what they want to do. Why should we take that away from them if this is what they enjoy doing? They should be able to do it. And I think if Neil was here and he was asked for his blessing on this tour, I think he would have given it.
And I think they did the smart thing, a very smart thing when they announced the tours. The tour is that they, they're not presenting Annika as a member of the band. She wasn't up on stage with them. She hasn't been in any of the promotional materials. She's playing in the band, but they're very, very clear about the fact that she's not replacing Neil. She's not Neil's replacement. He is irreplaceable, but she's an excellent drummer, so she's playing with them. And they're also having a keyboard player on the stage too, which again separates, the trio. So again, it kind of, dulls perhaps some criticisms that they're just, replacing Neil with somebody.
Yeah, I don't think they're trying to recreate anything.
No.
I think that it is for Geddy and Alex a way for the catalog to be heard. They're both healthy, young enough to tour, feel that they can do it, and don't want to waste any more time resting on the laurels of the past. I think they want to be able to move into this new phase of being able to play their songs again. So while I thought it would never happen, when I heard them announce it and why they were doing it, I had no problems being a super fan with that. For me, it was like, yeah, this is right. This absolutely needs to happen. And these guys don't need to be holed up at home somewhere, watching other bands talk about how they were influenced by Rush, playing Rush songs, or just be a guest at, oh, Geddy's going to jump on stage here, or Alex is going to jump on stage there. I don't think that that was fair. I think that they just were kind of itching to get out. They had their time where they were able to mourn their brother. And it was time to get back on stage and bring these songs to life, and bring these songs to life for a new generation of fans. People don't realize how important that is and how rock needs it. Rock needs it. Rock radio needs it. Rock right now is the second most streamed genre of music under hip hop. More than pop, more than country. A lot of people don't know that. So why are we not taking that and running that ball down the court? It seems kind of crazy if you can still do it to not do it.
Yeah, and I don't think that fans who haven't seen them live will be prepared for them playing Free Will. I hope because it's always been a highlight of any show that they've played it in, because it's such a technical impossibility that song even makes it to the finish line every time they play it.
Yeah.
I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to that.
How must Annika be feeling, by the way?
Ooh.
Getting ready to go out on tour with these guys. And she seems so chill. Like I knew her from Jeff Beck. Again, I was not proficient in her. I couldn't tell you everything that she's done, but I do subscribe to Sweetwater Sound. So I saw her in her drumming clinics and I was like, wow, look at her. I've always been really enamored with female drummers. Cindy Blackman Santana has always been someone where I was like, oh my God, look at her. She's incredible. And there's just so many cool female drummers. And it's an unlikely position for a woman to be in a band sometimes. So watching her, and she's so quiet and kind of like, yeah, my dad was a drummer and I learned how to play the drums. And like, she's very kind of humble and not sort of like, rah, in your face. So an interesting choice. Yes. But do you think she is feeling pressure? Do you think that they're quelling that pressure for her? What do you think her mindset is like?
I think because she's not a huge Rush fan, I think the pressure is dialed down quite a bit. I mean, if it was Mike Portnoy doing it or Danny Carey doing it, they'd be scared shitless. They'd want to do Neil Wright. And I'm sure Annika does, but I don't think she's as scared as those guys would have been to do a great job. I think she's just going to do her job, which is learn these songs and play them her own way. And I think she's going to be fantastic. What do you think, Jer?
Well, yeah, that's going to be a balancing act between playing the fills that everybody wants to hear and playing the song how she plays it. I'm intrigued by what's going to happen. It could go either way. It could break either way. Fans, I don't know if you've ever been on the internet before.
Yeah, well, that was kind of my point. Like she's going to be so under a microscope. But Steve, you made a great point. I think not being that crazed Rush fan, I think is going to benefit her. And they're a massive support system. Look, Geddy is not going to bring in his partner in a rhythm section.
Right.
That he is not feeling, in every ounce of his body. These guys they're so supportive of other musicians. And, I mean, look, I think the last time we spoke, I was lucky enough to be on your podcast, and we spoke years ago about how all these bands now are coming to the forefront talking about the influence that Rush has had on them. They were not always the popular table in the cafeteria to sit at for music fans. I was one of those kids in my school, my junior high and my high school. We had the kids that hung by the doors, as we called them. And the doors kids, we were always a little more like this smoker, drinker, freaks and geeks, people that would be more likely to get expelled from school. And although we were smart, we were the Rush fans. We were the Iron Maiden fans. We were the people that had the jackets on, the Hemispheres jackets and the Killers jackets. And those were the big music fans when I grew up. And that kind of stays with you. I don't think that leaves you once you get your diploma and, you walk out of school. And I think that has been all of a sudden one day it was like everybody got the epiphany and everybody's like, well, I'm a Rush fan. Well, I'm a Rush fan. Well, I'm a Rush fan. But it wasn't always the popular, in the 1990s, it wasn't necessarily like the in vogue kind of chic thing to like in music.
Yeah, if we had known that all of those grunge bands loved Rush, right, we would have worn our colors more proudly. Right?
Right? Who knew? Who the hell knew?
Knew Corgan was such an incredible Rush fan.
And Grohl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just, like literally, I mean, I think it comes down to it now. It almost seems like everyone is a Rush fan. And I think that, that's the beauty of the band. And that's why now is not the time to call it a day. I was not aware that Neil was ill. And it was such a shock to the fans when he suddenly passed away. I remember being in my office and getting a text from someone, and I'm like, oh, it's not true. It can't possibly be true. And so I think now I would have hated to see those songs never be played again.
Jerry and I have had a disagreement about something, and I'll ask you, do you think Rush is more popular now than they've ever been? I think so.
Absolutely. I absolutely feel that way. Yeah. I think they're more popular. I think they're more respected. And yeah, I don't know if in the early 2000s they would be selling out as many nights at Madison Square Garden as they wanted to put on the table. Like I feel they could put 20 nights up right now at the Garden and sell out 20 nights within a couple of days period of time. So yeah, I absolutely think that. I think the appreciation for the band has carried them through. And it's not necessarily the radio airplay. They've not been a band that you can turn on any radio station across the country and hear tons of catalog, deep cuts from Rush. I was always a programmer that was like, fuck this. I'm putting as much Rush on the radio station as I want to, not just because I'm a fan, but I know how many fans. Jersey's a big fan base. You know, Alex Lifeson told me that when we spoke. He's like, oh, Jersey's always been amazingly kind to us. I know how it is in the Northeast because I'm like, we're Rush geeks out here. We are all Rush geeks. So, yeah, I think there's a greater appreciation for what the band has brought. I think there's multi-generations now. I think there's people of our age that have kids. I think there's people that have grandkids. And I think there's I had three generations of Rush fans in front of me 10 years ago when I was at Prudential Center, and there was a grandfather, a father, and a teenage kid. And I was like, holy shit. So we wouldn't have gotten that back in the day. No, no way.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe you're changing my mind, Steve. I think it might have to do with the fact that there are a lot of Rush albums that don't sound dated at all. There's a lot of bands where you're like, okay, I could tell by the production, or I can tell just by, the style that it was from a certain decade. But Rush didn't care about that kind of stuff. They just did whatever they wanted to do all the time. So there's albums from the 80s that don't sound like 80s albums, and there's albums from the 70s that you wouldn't necessarily peg as 70s albums. They're just amazing songs.
What song do you think is like the sleeper song that a lot of people, it's not like a radio song that every time you hear it, just makes you go crazy? Give me one. I know it's hard to pick one. It's hard for me as a geek to pick one, but I'm thinking of one right now that I'm like, oh, not necessarily like one of their biggest hits or radio songs, but I always played it on my show. So, Gerald, let's start with you.
I would say Xanadu. I mean, it's definitely a popular song, but I don't think it got much airplay considering the fact that 3 minutes of a horse clomping around for you know what I mean? Nothing happens in the song supposedly for minutes until that riff really kicks in, and I could listen to that song all the time. I'll listen to it tonight before I go to bed. That's what I'm going to do before I go to bed.
Steve, what about you?
I'm going to go a super, super deep track from Presto. Gerry knows which one I'm going to say. This is a song that our listeners always say that they wish they heard Rush play live, and it's Available Light. The piano, Geddy's arguably best vocal performance. And Gerry and I were just discussing on the podcast, how great would it be if they pulled this song out and played it on this tour? Do you think, Terrie, they'll pull a couple of songs out that they've never played before?
Yeah. I think for the diehard fans, yeah. I think throwing and mixing up that set list, yeah. They've got enough dates to do it. And there's a whole fresh perspective, a different dynamic to the band. And bringing in keys and bringing in Annika, yeah. I think if they're going to do it, now's the time to do it. For me, I'm going to go Animate. I love that song. And I always thought it should have been a really amazing radio single. It never got much love. And every time I play it, it brings me to a whole different place. And every time I'd ever play that song on the radio, I got such feedback from people that were like, man, I never hear this song and it's so cool. And I love all of the newer, if you can call that newer, but, not necessarily classic songs. I think a lot of that stuff has fallen by the wayside and does not get the love that it deserves. And Steve, you were going to make a point before I rudely interrupted you, and I want your point to be made.
No, I was just going to say that not only the music, but Neil's lyrics are more relevant today than they've ever been. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I listen to a song off Grace Under Pressure or Power Windows, and I think to myself, this is something that's happening now. 40 years later, Neil's lyrics are still poignant and relevant and mean so much. Don't you think so, Jer?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say it was just his prescience, but unfortunately, he's addressing societal issues that we are still struggling with today, which is your typical rock song topic.
But weren't they always a band that we quite hadn't caught up to yet?
Yeah,
Like they were always that band that was a few steps ahead of everybody else and a
Right.
few steps ahead of, well, while we talk about they're more popular now than they ever were and blah, blah, blah. And we were kind of the outcasts by the doors and, sitting there. I told you the story about how we all went out and got kimonos back in the day to try to look like early Rush. But I always felt that we hadn't caught up to them yet. There's certain artists that were there and we were all here. Frank Zappa was there and we were all here. And Rush was a band that was kind of there and we were all here and we were fighting to catch up. But I think we finally caught up now. And I think it's their moment in the sun. I couldn't, as a super fan, as a Rush geek, be happier to see these songs come back to life.
yeah, I agree. I'm very excited for what they are going to pull out of the hat. Because I think Alex said that they are preparing 35 songs, but they're only, they're not going to play a, 3 hour plus show anymore. So I think there's going to be a lot of rotating songs, and then hopefully they'll, you know, dip into the bag and pull out some real gems.
Didn't you guys hear that they kind of got together at like the spa? They were at a health spa, kind of. Alex and Getty together. And I think it was Alex who was going through some health things and Getty joined him there. And that was kind of the idea of them getting together and being able to do a tour. And I think they decided when they were kind of together at this spa.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Getty went to help Alex, who was getting his health kind of back in order. And Getty was kind of like, oh, well, maybe I'll, do some things to kind of get my health back. And Alex, when I interviewed him, he never looked better. He sounded incredible. He looked super trim. I mean, he just looked wonderful. And this was a guy that was not going to sit at home resting on his laurels. I knew that something was coming.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad for it, truthfully, because like Steve said, they were born to play these songs. I think you just can't let them rest. I'm very excited for the tour. I can't believe it to wait 9 or 10 months or however long it is. It's ridiculous.
Steve, I'll give you a parting word because you were going to say something as well.
My parting word would be just that Clockwork Angels is probably their greatest achievement. And what band puts out their greatest achievement as their final album? Can you think of one? I can't. Gerry and I talk about this all the time.
No,
Yeah.
I cannot. There's not even a tiny idea of that. And I think that when you guys had Nick on the podcast, there were so many things that he touched on with that were so inspiring. But no, I can't think of anyone. How about you, Jer?
No, I've said it before, the string of incredible albums, any band would be happy to have, 7 good albums in their entire discography. And Rush had like 7 in a row. You know what I mean? And all of them are great. 19 studio albums. I mean, it's crazy output and crazy quality from beginning to end. And like Clockwork Angels, like Steve said, their first full concept album, and so hard rocking. When we talked to Nick, we were talking about some of the songs on the album, and he was just like, he told the guys, I want you to be like Rush, you know what I mean? Like, I want you to throw everything that you have into these songs, like Headlong Flight. He's like, I want every great Rush idea you've ever had in this one song. And they did. They they pulled off a magic trick with that album.
Absolutely. Guys, it was so great to catch up with you. I'm so excited for the tour. I'm so excited to have you guys on my podcast. And I'm telling all of my Carr Stereo folks, all of the Rush people that tell me how much they love Rush all the time. If you guys have not subscribed to the Something for Nothing podcast, it is phenomenal. You guys are putting out great stuff, amazing guests, everything Rush. I love it. And I'm so excited that you guys joined me. And I will see you at one of the garden shows. I sure hope.
I hope so. Thanks so much for having us, Terrie. This was a pleasure. And we've got to have you back on our podcast soon.
I would love to. Anytime, anytime. Deep dive conversations, my friends, about my favorite band. I mean, there's no better way to spend my time.
Don't forget to like this podcast and subscribe to the Carr Stereo page on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Rob Moorhead. TC and I will see you next time.